Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Sisters of Legacy. We thank you in advance for joining us. We are going to run our intro and we'll be right back. All right, ladies, we are back yet again this week. So I'm going to let you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Good evening. I'm Tangela.
Oh, shoot.
Hey, I'm Shanetta. Katrina.
All right, guys. And actually, tonight we have a guest. So I'll say, wow, I've known her, oh gosh, a very, very long time. This is a friend slash little sister from New York. So she's gonna join us tonight and drop her nuggets of wisdom from her parenting her son. So I'm gonna bring on Imani Boyce. So Imani, welcome.
Hello, how are you?
All right, so tonight, guys, our topic is mothers and the men we raise. So my motivation was for this topic was I often, I've heard previously, I hear people say like, stuff like, who raised you? Where did he come from? Where did he get that? And it kind of made me think that, the same women that feel this way, they're also raising men. And it made me wonder, like, do we really think about the fact that our son could potentially be somebody's husband, somebody's father, even somebody's boss? Like, do we think about those things while we are raising them? And this is not absent of their father. For some of us, we are married. There are some of us that are raising our children as single women. But it's all the same. I still think as a mother, there is a certain level of influence that you have or should have over your children, regardless if you're a single parent or not. So that was kind of my motivation to just kind of talk about it and see if you guys have had that thought. Do you really think about that when you're dealing with your son? So, Monty, since you're our guest, I'm going to let you start first. So tell us, you don't have to tell us his name. You can tell us how old your son is. And then kind of answer the question, do you consider what he's going to become as it relates to family or society? Not so much business, but like the personal side.
Okay, so my son his name is Javon. He's 15 years old and he'll be 16 in November. And yes, I think about it all the time. One thing I say to all my friends always is like, I'm like, raising him made me realize that there's so many things that you see in adult men that just didn't happen as adults. Like, you think like, oh, like you said, who raised you? I'm like, no, these things happen from little toddlers, certain characteristics, qualities, and behaviors. And then I'm looking at, a grown man and I'm like, wait, you probably were like that when you were 2, so definitely for sure. That's always in my mind when I'm raising him, so yes.
Okay, so were there any okay, you said he's 16, right?
You could be 16.
So when you started, did you start off thinking, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm never gonna do this with my son. And then, years later, or once you got into the process, like, okay, all of this is wrong. I need to scrap it and start something new.
Yes. Yep. When I was pregnant, even when he was younger, I would say certain things. I'm gonna be this kind of mom. I'm gonna be that kind of mom, and and he just came and made me not that mom. I've adjusted over years and just, looked at him and then evaluated what I thought he needed and just adjusted to that. So yeah, for sure. I thought, for example, when he was little, I was like, oh, I remember dating. And I remember my mother and father were like, you can't date till you're 16. Like, that's it. Like, there's no dating before that. You can actually, and dating for them meant you can get phone calls and you can tell them that you like the boy. Not like I was going anywhere with them or anything like that, but the fact that a guy like me and I can now talk to him on the phone. So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be that kind of parent. I'm gonna be the kind of parent, and if a girl calls, I'm gonna be angry. I'm gonna be mean. It's not that way. He has a friend, and she texts me, and we're cool and all that other stuff. I'm like, I thought I was gonna be mean. Nope.
Okay, so Shanetta, you have 4 boys, right?
Mm-hmm. 4.
Okay, so I'm sure you have a wealth of knowledge to share. So run down their ages. And
so the baby is 18. The next son is 21, and then 27 and 28. Yeah.
okay, so do you find there were differences from when you raised the older ones to things that you do with the youngest?
Yeah, by the time we got to the youngest one, we were just tired, and it was just like, just stay alive. Stay alive. Just don't go out here and die. Like, just stay alive, please. Thank you. Have a nice day. I think we did become a lot more lenient with the younger one. The kids always say it, like they can come up with like a whole laundry list of things that like he got to do that there was no way on God's green earth that they would even come close to doing. So they would definitely say that there were differences. I would definitely say there are probably a lot of differences, but we were literally like just kind of over it. We were like, okay, we've already done this several times. Yeah, so do this, don't do that. Have a nice day. And, we hope you survived us. But all in all, I do remember this was years ago. So one of my sons is married. This was years ago. I walked into my boys typically shared rooms and that kind of stuff. So I walked into one of the rooms and it was just a hot mess. Like all of my boys were just messy. I taught them to clean up. They all knew how to do their own laundry. They all had chores and housework and, all the typical things that, we all do with our kids as they're growing up. They had rules to follow, all that good stuff, but they were just totally messy. Like we could go in, clean up a room. It could be like spotless. And 15 minutes later, it looks like a tornado has like come straight through the room. I don't know what they were in there doing, but like, it's just what happened. You could bleach clean it, and 15 minutes later, it smells like a locker room. And I'm like, what in the world happened in here? Like, we just did all your laundry. Why does it smell like a locker room and hot spit in here? Like, what's happening in this room? But that's boys for you, right? So I literally remember I made this post that I apologize now, dear future daughter-in-law. You are going to get a slob. It's nothing you can do about it. It's nothing I can do about it. You know this before you get him. Deal with it. So I can remember after my son got married and he was having like a little argument with his wife about cleaning up, literally. And I literally sat back and just kind of laughed. And like, she was like, but this is not funny. And I'm like, but yes, it really is because you knew before you married him. Because I told you so. She was like, but it's not funny, but it is. But honestly, I mean, we did the best we could. We taught him everything. He's a good dad. I'm not sure if he's like a good housemate with regards to that.
Okay. And Trina.
Yes. My son is 17. And well, I feel like I try to teach him just, like said, your basic what to do. But I've also tried to just kind of put in his ear, you got to be a provider. Just certain words: provider, protector. These are things you need to be looking forward to, thinking about, as you're getting old. These are things, roles you're going to have to take on. And it's so funny that I distinctly remember I was talking to you, Amani, when you said to me, the one thing that you always say to your son is you ask him, what kind of man do you want to be? And I never forgot that. And I still to this day use that. And I say to my son, well, what kind of man do you want to be? When we come up and we come going facing things, and I'm saying to him, okay, think looking forward, what kind of man do you want to be? So hopefully that's catching on somewhere in there. These days, I don't know, but I feel like it may turn out all right. It may. And like Shanetta was saying, like my daughter will say that I give him so much more leniency and I let him do A, B, and C. And like you said, I'm like, no, I'm just tired. I'm tired of fussing. I'm tired of, you know what I'm saying? And my experiences taught me that it's probably going to turn out all right anyway. So I'm wasting my time with all this. I was so like hard on her, like, and scared everything, then she turned out fine. I was like, oh, he probably going to turn out fine too. Let me just relax. I'm tired. You get tired of like being on every second, like trying to monitor this. Listen, this is what I expect of you. There's some non-negotiables that you're going to have to do and not do. But again, like Shanetta said, just don't die. Come back home safe, please. That's a lot.
Okay. Money, that's good. The whole what kind of man do you want to be? Where did you get that from?
There was things that he was doing, and I was looking at him. I'm like, well, is this the kind of person that you want to be? And you have to start from now. I'm like, what kind of man do you want to be? He would say, I don't know. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't know? Do you want to be truthful? You want to be honest? You want to be loyal? And so I kind of started forcing him to think about that. What kind of man do you want to be? And it starts now. We don't wait till, I kept saying, you don't get these things when you become an adult. So what kind of man you want to be? You want to be honest? You got to be honest now. You want to be this, and it just, that's really where it came from. He was, at school, he was telling stories. I was like, he was just lying. And I'm like, are you going to be a liar? What kind of man do you want to be? He was like, I don't know. I'm like, got to kind of help him to think forward. That's always my thing. Think forward, think past this moment into what, the next part of it.
Imani, I think that's good what you're saying, because I think a lot of times, and I don't have sons, so I definitely an outsider in this conversation. But when you talk about what kind of man do you want to be, I think about a lot of times we hear the responsibilities. This was what you have to do, but who do you want to be?
Right.
Because you could provide, you can pay the bill, you can take care. But if your character is flawed, then I think that has even more, has just as much of a detriment or a benefit, depending on the situation. So I like how you say, who do you want to be? What character, what type of character do you want to have? And I think that's important. It's so important for our young people to understand that you can make all the A's, you can make all the money, but if your character is jacked up, then you're gonna have problems.
Right. So Tangela, I was gonna say yes. I know we know you don't have boys and you have girls, and I know the girls are still kind of small. So, you probably haven't gotten to that. Well, you haven't gotten into the whole growing up to be somebody's wife and all that stuff. But do you ever kind of sit and think about, okay, well, at this age, I want to start talking to them about, what kind of people to stay away from or what kind of man. Like, have you started having those conversations or thoughts?
Yes, especially now that they're back in school, and my oldest is in her last year elementary school. So most of my conversation is questions, just kind of, who the type of character the kids she hang around with. Right. So I'll ask her, who did you sit by at lunch, or what happened? What's interesting that happened? And she'll, kind of tell me, who give the teacher problems and stuff. And she has this one little girl, I think I was telling y'all, she don't like this little girl. She said she be cheating on tests. She said, I didn't say anything the last time, but she do it again. I said, no. I get it. And I admire the fact that, you know that cheating is wrong, but you stay out of other folks' business. But I am, just kind of seeing where her head is as far as, can you identify certain character traits? If you're friends with a person, I ask her, why are you and such friends? And she'll tell me, she's a good kid, and she does good on her work, and she's responsible and stuff like that. So we are starting to have kind of those character, conversations. The youngest one just for kindergarten, they just got a whole bunch of drama. I've never seen a whole bunch of 5-year-old girls who they don't want to play with each other, but they best friends. The next time, like, y'all do too much. So we still working on that one.
Okay, so ladies, the ones with sons. So like, Shannon, I'm sure you've had to have this conversation. But Imani, have you found yourself having the conversation of like the kind of young ladies to steer away from?
Yes. 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 Oh, yes. Yes. I can't, there's definitely been some questionable choices. But you can't, the one thing that what I found that you can't do, you can't force what you want for them in a mate on them. It has to be a choice. So most time, like, with this situation, when there was those things that were questionable, I kind of made it him to think about what, giving him that, like, because I could say don't be with him, but I remember being young and my mother was like, you can't be with him, and it just made me want to be with him all the more. So my approach is, let's evaluate it, and then he has some great example of men who treat their women with respect, uplift them, take care of them, provide for them. So I always reflect to them, look at how they treat their wives. Do they do that? Look at how Granddaddy treated grandma. Did he do that? Those things to help him to say, and then look how grandma treats Granddaddy. Look how Auntie Angel, look at how your family members treat their spouses and their girlfriends and significant others. And give him ideas of what a functional, good relationship looks like. And tell him, those are the kind of things you should look for in a significant other. I wish I could say she sucks, leave her alone, but I've learned it doesn't really work like that.
Okay, Trina.
Yeah. I mean, he's prior to this year. Let's start with that. Prior to this year, he's been very, one person type thing.
Okay.
And so now this year we're at leaving our options open. I guess as he's a senior, that's his term. He's going to leave his options open. Oh my God. So I said, listen, this is what you need to bear in mind. I said, even as an adult and me dating you, and one of the questions that people always ask is not only are you single, but is there anyone out there that thinks that they're in a relationship with you?
Right.
You need to make sure that while you're out here leaving your options open, you make sure that there's nobody out there that thinks that they're in a relationship with you.
Right.
Because that's not cool.
Right.
So we're not out here being a player. We're not out here breaking hearts, and that's not who I raised you to be. I said, and I want you to be very honest with whoever and make sure that they know that you're leaving your options open. Don't have somebody thinking that they in a relationship with you, or make sure you're very honest. And I've always told him that. So at this point, he says that everybody knows. I hope that nobody's watching this and like, oh my goodness, I thought
I was thinking the same thing, Trina. I was
I
like,
doubted my own son.
Okay, so Shanetta.
My sons have all made interesting choices throughout the years when it comes down to relationships and girls. And I think that's been one of the biggest things too, is like be very honest, be very upfront. I do have one that definitely talks about his options open. I had a running joke at one point. I told him, I was like, so you got this girl that comes over on Monday, Wednesday, Friday to hang out with you and see you. And then this one comes over Tuesday, Thursday. I was like, the neighbor's gonna think you a little player over here. Cause like you just be having different little girls come visit you, huh? And he was like, Mom, you just gotta keep your options open. I'm like, dude, you gotta cut this out. But when they get to a certain age and they're just trying to figure out the whole thing and trying to like piece it all together and what that looks like, I think there are a lot of conversations that you have to make sure that they're on the right track. You can't be a silent parent and not say anything. But I'm not as nice as Imani. I am definitely the one that's gonna be like, take her back to where you got her from, drop her off, and do not return with her again. She's not it. She don't fit the mold. She is not for our family. She's not for your life. Drop her off. Because I really believe in speaking my mind, and if they can't see it, then I need to point it out for you, and I need to let you know that it's something not quite right about this. And if she's nice, I need you to be able to see beyond the nice. Like one of my sons had got into a little serious relationship, and I thought the girl was completely nice. Like she was really lovely. She was a bit, ditzy, but she was lovely. And he after a while he saw a side of her that we didn't see, of course, because we weren't around her as much as he was, and he cut it off real fast. He was just like, nope, don't do crazy, can't do that. And he was like real quick, and I was like, but, and she was calling and like randomly, like trying to apologize and get back with him, and he was like, oh no, I don't do crazy. She showed me crazy one time, Mama. I don't need that in my life. And he was done. And I was like, oh, he's gonna be my hard one, because it only took one time for him. You had one opportunity to mess it up for him, and he was just kind of like, all this forgive and move on and get back together. He is not a bit more with it. Like I guess he got the lessons. He was like, hey, they don't talk to me enough, and you showed me who you were, and I believed you the first time. And he moved on, and I just knew that was gonna be, this one gonna hang out. This gonna be the girl, right? He kicked her to the curb real fast. So that one, I have to say, he might have got the lessons. I don't really know for sure yet, depending on what he bring over here next. As of right now, I think he got the lesson. So I think that it just kind of depends on the kid. It depends on the boy and you, or the young man. You kind of have to talk to him where he is. I'll say this. I have one that he tends to lean more towards the palm color people, and that was interesting. That was kind of a I didn't really expect it. I didn't really see it coming. I should have seen it coming, but I didn't really see it coming. And I was just kind of like, oh, okay, that's your type. I understand. Okay, but I don't understand. So it took, just had to figure it out. And now that we have it figured out, I think it's changing. So there's that.
Okay, so I know we've all heard it said before, like a woman can't raise a man. Like I know you guys have heard that before, right? Like a woman can't raise a man. What do you guys feel with some of? And I know we're all still raising. Y'all still like you never quit being a parent. Doesn't matter how old your child gets. There's gonna be somewhere that you're gonna have to put that mommy hat back on, and and parent. So no matter the age, you're always raising. So like, what were some of the challenges, or have you guys ever gotten to a point where you feel like, you know what, you a boy, I'm a girl, this ain't gonna work, I can't with you? Like, have you had those moments?
Just this morning. No. No, yes, definitely, yes. During the course of there's just certain things that, that I just couldn't comprehend. And the older he got and the more he experienced, the more I realized there's so much more to being a man and raising a man that I, from my womanly perspective, didn't understand. I had to learn to relinquish relinquish into the men in his life those things, because I was like, no, I'm a mom. I could do everything. Not that I could. I never said I was his father, because he has a father. And but I always said I'm his mom, and as his mom, I do what needs to be done. And so I felt like anything that needed to be done as his mom, I should be able to do. But I had to learn to relinquish those things that he needed a man for. And those, for me, those conversations were hard, having them, with, the men in his life, my brothers, his uncles, his father. They're like, no, it's okay, Imani, you've done amazing. But these things need to come from a man who's already experienced them. And even having those conversations with them and them telling me their experiences, let me know, okay, you know what? It's okay. I have to let you do this. So, and then him coming into manhood, I've been his mother. I've always been on his back, I'm like this. And so at a certain point, kids learn to tune you out.
Mhm.
So him coming into age, I think he's at a point where he hears me, because I'm always talking, but there's certain points where he tunes me out. So that's when I utilize the men to reinforce and to give him that additional boost. So, it can be done. I'm not going to say it can't be done, because there are plenty of women who had to do it. Fortunately, I did not have to. And so I allowed the men in my life and his life to be the men and role models for him.
Okay. Shanetta, and yes, I know, you're married and your husband is, is there. But have you ever, experienced those moments when you're like, you know what? This is your father's area. I can't today. I need you to go find him. Like, have you had those moments?
Definitely. All kinds of moments. Well, first thing I would say is that it takes a village. So sometimes even when they have the dad in the home, it's not just their dad that they need to hear. It's other men that have had different experiences than their dad that they might need to hear. So that's one of the key things, is that my husband was never the type of dad or father or man that was intimidated by another man doing something to help his son in some type of way. But definitely have had plenty of moments, and still do, where I'm just kind of like, ooh, call your dad. I cannot help you. I don't even know like where to even start, because I'm going to give you a woman's opinion, and that's not what you need right now. I'm going to say the things a mom would say. I'm going to say, like, there have been things that I've decided that, okay, well, this is how it's going to be. And my husband was like, nope, not going to work. It's a boy. And this is not how we need to approach that. You can't approach it this way with him. You have to do it this way. there are going to be moments where you just can't do it all. I like what Imani said about never proclaiming to be I'm everything. I'm his mom and his dad. I'm his everything. Celebrate me on Father's Day. That type of deal that some women do when they are single and they're raising their kids. I think that it's important to recognize that we have roles and that those roles are different, and that the role of a mom, while you may be really doing a lot, because I mean, married or not, like moms do it. Like we raise the kids, and we have a whole lot that we're out here doing, trying to manage everything that the babies have going on, or our big people have going on. And I think it's important that we still understand that there's still some things that our sons need to hear from men. There's still some things that they need to see a man do. And it's not about fixing doorknobs and changing light bulbs either. It's more than that. Right. There are so many things that our young men need to see. A few years back, when my boys were younger, our church started a mentoring program. And we made sure that our boys participated in the mentoring program. Yes, they had a dad that they saw at home every single night who was actually their father. Because a lot of people would be like, oh, my kids will go to school and they'd be like, oh, you live with your mom and your dad? Like, that's your real dad? Not like, your mom's boyfriend or your stepdad. Like, that's your actual dad? And that would be like the going question, to the point where once I remember my daughter, she was like, I'm just going to start telling people, no, he's not my dad. Like, I don't really know how to answer that question anymore because they keep asking me that. And, but it was still a thing for them when they did the mentoring program. And I was like, I really think that they need those connections with other people, to the point where now, to this day, the men that were over the mentoring program still check in on my sons. They still like one of my sons wasn't doing something he was supposed to be doing, not quite the right way. And the young man that was over him, or the man that was over him for the mentoring program, like pulled him to the side and talked to him and was like, well, hey, what's going on? What you got going on? What you doing? So it wasn't just their father's voice that they needed to hear. There were so many other men, whether it's our pastor or, like I said, the men in the mentoring program. It was coaches even at school. And there was never that conflict with my husband where he felt like, well, I'm his dad and nobody else needs to be speaking, no. We were all for it. We were like, whoever can, it takes a village. So there were many things that I would defer to the men, just simply because I knew that I'm going to give you what I think. You're going to hear what I think anyway. That really, the truth of the matter is, you're going to hear me. Like, I have a lot of things to say, and I'm going to say them all. So you're going to hear that. But I think there are some things you would do better with hearing it from a man's perspective. So yeah, definitely turned them over plenty of times.
And Trina?
Definitely. And I'm definitely not that mother that says, I'm a mother and a father. I'm a single mother, and I can do as much as I can as a mother. Definitely I have just a very few men that kind of can speak into his life or mentor him. But I think I've said before in here that I kind of struggle with number one, asking people to, because I have a problem trusting people. So I don't want to ask. And I feel like if there are people who are supposed to be in his life and they're not stepping up, then I don't feel right asking them anyway, whatever that's about. But but there are a select few that are, that will step up, that will, talk to him. And like Shannon said, there are coaches. He plays football and lacrosse, and sometimes he'll dabble in basketball, but there are always coaches that kind of, like with me when he was younger and he played sports, like he would get very emotional when he got in the car. But on the field, I didn't see any of that. But when we was driving off, that's when the tears and all that other stuff happened. This is when he was smaller. So I knew that he was kind of, learning things from different men. And I remember when he was like maybe 11 or 12, we went to like a Sweet 16 or something. And I'm trying to tell him that he needs to dress up and wear this and wear that or whatever. We get there. And my daughter's best friend's father, who's one of his mentors, I would say, all he wants to do is, what is Mr. Darren wearing? Because if he's not wearing a tie and suit, I'm not. So everything that he, like, even at that young age, he just wanted to make sure whatever the men here were wearing, I'm not going to be all dressed up if they're not. Right. So, there are just certain people that, I know will talk to him and will step up, and I can even go to them and say, you know what? I've been trying to say this to him, but if you maybe said something, maybe it'll sound different, because I guess I'm just mommy and all I do is say stuff to him anyway. So after a while, it's just like, yeah. So.
Okay. And so Tim's like, yes, we know, you have the little princesses, but have you even found with girls? Because I know, like with my daughter, I've had to sometimes have her dad say things to her, because I'm like, okay, you should hear this from a man, because she feels like, mommy, you're supposed to say that. You're supposed to do that. So have you had those moments with the girls yet where it's like, where you have to say, okay, Ephraim, I need you to, to say whatever. Have you had those moments yet?
When the girls were younger, I noticed that, if I were to, dress them up, comb their hair and all of that, the first thing that they would do was run to their dad and for that validation. Right. And I think we both realized very quickly that you have to validate. I could tell them all day, but it'll sound different. It'll feel different coming from their dad. And what I like that my husband does is compliment, more than just your looks. Right. If you do something character worthy, he'll compliment that and validate that. So I think the girls taught us that, very, very early, that, fathers carry their voice resounds differently, not better, not worse, but differently than mommy. So we picked up on that quickly, that, as young ladies, it's important for their father to validate them, so that they know what that, genuinely sounds like, and what that feels like.
Okay, so I have a question, Imani and Trina. I have a question. So, I mean, everybody else can comment or whatever, but I want you two to answer it first. So, as being single women and, you're dating and stuff like that, like, do you find yourself trying to, some of the traits that you would like in somebody you may date, instilling those into your son? Like, so let me explain. So, like, I know there's probably somebody in your head you'll think about that, or you worked with. She's like a single mother. And then you see her son, his pants is hanging down, he like calling her by her name, or, like he has all these bad habits. And she'd be like, ain't no good men out here. And when I see that, I always wonder, like, but you're adding your child to the pile, like he's going to grow up and he's going to be added to the pile of no good men, because like all the stuff you want in a man, why aren't you teaching your child to be that for somebody else? So do you guys find that you have done that over the years? Like, instill some of those things into your son that, it's like, okay, I dated a guy, like you said, somebody that was a liar. Like, boy, you can't be running around here lying, like you can't be lying to people.
Yes. I mean, I'm not doing it because I'm like, oh, this is the kind of person I want to date, but I'm really just trying to genuinely create a good person,
Right.
So like one of the things that from when he was little, chivalry. I'm like, listen, the way I am, and you need to treat your woman right. My dad always did certain things for my mom. That's the kind of house I grew up in. He took care of my mom. And so that is the expectation for him. He's not my husband, but I'm your mom. I take care of you. You take care of me. So one of the things that I will always do is, make him carry the bags, the grocery bags, and also hold the door. So when he was younger, he really didn't like, not that he didn't like it, but he couldn't understand why I was so adamant about him holding the door for me. So I would, he would walk out the door in front of me and he'd let it go. And I would stand behind the closed door. And he'd be like, in his mind, he's looking at me like, are you serious? I'm like, no, you're going to hold the door for me. So now, and it took some time, but not a long time, but he got tired of me. I literally let the door close in my face. And I would say, and he's like, no, you can't open the door. I said, no, you're going to hold the door for me. That's it. And so now when we go out, he's automatically just holds the door. He holds the door for other women and everyone's like, oh, he's such a gentleman. But those are the characteristics that you are supposed to have. You're supposed to treat people, and especially the women in your life, with value. So that's what was important. And that's the thing that I was treating him, teaching him and still teaching him.
All right. And Trina?
As far as dating no. I don't think I really look at who I'm dating and kind of refer back. I just always kind of put, like Amani was saying, certain things. I just make sure I put in him. And as well with the holding of the door, same thing. Like, when we walk up to the door, I'm standing there and I'm waiting for you to open it for me so that I can walk through. You know what I mean? So at this point now, it's a habit. So he's always opening doors because why not? And last year we were driving his little girlfriend off. You hear me, right? His little girlfriend. We were driving his little girlfriend off at her house. And he got out the car, opened the door for her, and walked her to the door. I was like, okay, that's how I raised you. I felt all happy and proud. But it felt good that it wasn't even like, oh, I'm showing off. It's just, this is what I do. I get out, I'm gonna walk her to the door, all that, and when he starts driving, I'm gonna make sure you don't pull up to some woman's house and beep. We're not beeping. You're gonna go to the door and ring the bell. If if you're dating somebody, you're not gonna go and beep the horn. That's not what we're doing. So just stuff like that. That's how I was raised. Imagine some guy pulling up to my house, to Robert Norris' house, and beeping the horn. You get yourself out and ring the bell and be prepared to talk to my mother and or father,
right,
prior to taking me out. You know what I'm saying? So just those same things. I try to put in him. As well as, like I said, always, being honest and being, a good man. I just want him to be a good man.
Right. So what, and I guess everybody can kind of answer this. Tangela, you as well, because your kids are your kids, boys, girls, it kind of all equals the same thing. Like, what has been some of you guys, I'll say fears, but like greatest concerns, especially as your children get older? What are some of your concerns?
For me, I just wanted to make sure we raised good people. That was that especially with them being older, when they're younger. So a long time ago, someone said this to me, that when they're young, they get on your nerves, but when they're older, they get on your heart. And having gotten to the point where none of my kids are small anymore, so I'm not really seeing about their day to day. I'm not managing their lives. I'm not, running their schedules. I'm not seeing them every day. I may not even talk to them every day. Being at that place, I just want to know that I raised good people. and that they have something to fall back on, and that they know that they're not in this world alone. So that's like the biggest thing for me, is that like they know that it doesn't matter how bad it gets. It doesn't matter how many bad decisions I make, that my parents are always going to be right here for me to help guide me and to be that number one cheerleader and support for whatever I'm doing. Like my kids could call me and be like, Mom, I decided that I'm going to paint clouds and, be a bubblegum maker. And I'll be like, go you about to be the best bubblegum maker and cloud painter on the planet. Like, that's just, I want them to know that they have a cheerleader in their corner. Now, I might look at you sideways like, but does bubblegum making and cloud painting make you some money? No, I need you to find out what else you're going to do to make money, though. But let's go ahead. Let's do the bubblegum making. But I want them to always know that they have that, and that they're just not alone. And then beyond that, that even when they don't have us anymore, they have each other. Which goes back to them being good people. I want them to be good people that are connected to each other, so that they never have that feeling of, I'm all in this world by myself. I have nobody. I don't want any of my kids to ever have that feeling. I don't like that. I don't want them to have that feeling. So I want to know that I raise good people and that they'll be together.
Okay. For me, what I it's similar to what you said, Shanetta, making sure that, my girls they have good character, that they make good decisions. I as they get older, I do, I am concerned about who they are connected to, because I know for a while, your friends have more influence sometimes than, parents. So making sure I maintain that connection with them, so that they feel and they know that, you can talk to me, about anything. I've seen on some show, my kids aren't old enough for this yet. One parent told his child, if you text me this code word, I will come get you, no questions asked. And I think that's so important, because, a lot of times we grow up fearing our parents, which I think, a healthy dose of fear is in order, but it can't be crippling to the point where I can't come to you if I'm in trouble. Yeah. So I never want, my girls to feel like they fear and they're afraid of me. Definitely want them to respect me, but also know that, I'm your biggest advocate. I'm your biggest cheerleader. I will protect you, with my life, literally. And I want them to always know that, and I think you said it perfectly, Shanetta, that, you aren't in the world by yourself.
Imani?
I think, I know with my son being in this very, this age of transitioning into a man, one of my concerns is hoping that I did enough and planted enough seeds, gave enough information, prepared him for life. One thing that's my main concern is a lot of things that, that I always tell him, I'm here I save him, I'm saving you from a lot of different things. I'm always here. But when you get, there's going to be a point where I can't always save you, and just hoping that when it does get to that time, that that he'll be able to make the right decisions, and that he's prepared for whatever life has for him, and that, my voice is in the back of his head, like, don't do this, da, 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 da. Whatever those lessons are, that he remembers them, right. and he applies them. I don't just want him to remember the lessons and the preparation, but to apply them in his life so that he can be successful. My fear really is just, hoping that I've done enough, given enough, and prepared him enough for life beyond me raising him.
Okay. Trina?
They've said it all. You guys have really said it all. Like, really, just hoping you did everything that you could and put everything into them. But there's one thing as they're getting older, I'm seeing that you really have to trust what you put in them and know that you've, given them the word of God, given them all the preparation, all the experience that you have, and and you have to trust what you put in them. You really have to, because if not, then you're going to be worried all the time. And I struggle with the not worrying. And so I'm talking to myself saying, trust what you put in them, trust what you put in them. Worry, like, I have to talk to myself like that because I will worry, worry, worry. So I really have to just trust and know that I've, done as much as I can. And I do worry. Well, maybe I didn't tell them this. Maybe I didn't. You do the best you can because there are no perfect parents, and you do your best. So.
Okay, so as far as growing up, okay, becoming good people, have you guys pushed your kids into any particular professional areas, or is that something that you just inspired them to do on their own? Like, have you find yourself pushing them, I don't know, it could be to college or to trade school or to a job? Have you guys had those pushes?
So if you ask my youngest son, he would tell you that he's at Morehouse right now because we made him go. That's what he would tell you. But we have not, like, we kind of laid the options out before him for college, and we kind of told him what works and like why certain things don't work. Like, he wanted to go to the school in Ohio, and I'm like, do you know how far away that is? Nobody can get to you if something happens to you. So we kind of, slowly tap danced away from that. Because it was just too far, and it was just kind of like, and it's cold, and you've been raised in Georgia, kid. Like, you don't even know cold. Like, you're not about that life. But he knew he was going to college because of what he wanted to do, but it was kind of like more of the encouragement of which college and giving him the reasons. But I think your kids are kind of like how we talk about with our husbands, that you know how to influence. You know what to do to influence. You don't necessarily have to say you must, but you kind of know how to plant the seeds and where to plant the seeds so that they pick them up and that they grow and flourish. And I think we did a lot of that with all of our kids, but definitely with our sons. But not necessarily so much with job choices. It was more so like, what do you want to do? Like, what's in your heart to do? I do find it interesting that one of our sons literally does musically on the creative side what my husband is doing. So it was like he just saw it and like he grew up with it, and now this is what he's moving towards and doing. And then another son literally has the same profession as my husband. And I just found, like, when I sit back and look at that, I'm just like, wow, like, that's super interesting that the influence was so much so there that they heard, they listened, they took it, and then they did it on their own without us having to say, you must do this. Our biggest things were, my husband would always tell them, time management, money management. You need to figure out how to manage your time, how to manage your money. And when you figure those things out, then you can figure out what you want to do and what you want to, the process. So they did, and they kind of worked themselves to what they were doing. College was not for all of our kids. I'm a college graduate. My husband is not. So it was a very balanced household to where we could say, you don't have to go to college, but you need to have a plan. You got to do something. So what shall you do if you don't go to college? You got to figure it out and fast, buddy, because you're graduating high school and you don't get to just sit here. So we didn't make them do anything, but they had to figure it out. You had to come up with a plan.
Okay. Imani?
So not jobs or so really he's getting to the point where, like, I'm gonna make, forcing his hand. But as he grew up, whatever he said he wanted to do, I was like, okay, well, we're gonna get you in the class for this, we're gonna do this, we're gonna hook you up with the cops, we're gonna do this. Oh, you want to go to the Air Force? Oh, granddaddy was in the Air Force, so you're gonna talk to granddaddy, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. I really did stand behind those things that he wanted to do or said he wanted to be, to give him an opportunity to explore it and really figure it out. The closer we get to graduating high school, things have definitely, he's gone through different moments. So we're kind of like, where do you want to go? Like you said, we're just, kind of working on a plan. to figure out what he said he wants to go to college. So, I really try to support, like, as she said before, Shanetta said before, just his decisions, what he wants to do. If he wants to go to college, I'm all for it. I don't know about bubblegum and clouds, but if that's what he wants to do, we're going to get him into I'm definitely behind him. What he wants to do, but I don't. He's going to have to do something. That's a fact. He's going to have to do something. What is what we're working on?
Okay. And Tangela, I know the girls are still very, very young, but are there things, that they've already said, they kind of want to do, or, maybe like Emmanuel was saying, got them in a class to do whatever. Have you had that happen yet?
They go back and forth between being astronauts and super pop stars. So that's where we are right now. But I am, paying attention and even asking God to give me insight, into their personalities. So I see the certain bend in, each of them. My oldest is very analytical. She's very organized. She's, very, meticulous. So I try to encourage activities that, that plays to that type of strength. And it's funny, they have, her school has like a morning broadcast, and she wanted to sign up for it. And there was 2 positions. It was an anchor and a technician. So I was like, oh, be the anchor, be the anchor. You read well, you're cute, be the anchor. But she was like, no, I want to be the technician. I want to run the show behind the scenes. And I wanted to push her so bad to be the anchor. But she said, no, I want to do the technician. So, we supported that, and that's what she's doing. So I'm learning how not to make, live vicariously through them, and if this is what you want, then, I'm going to support as much as I can, even if I want you to be on the anchor. I want her to be on TV, but she was like, no, I want to be the technician.
Okay. Whitney said, I watch my son to see academically, physically, artistically, etc. traits he portrayed and fostered those areas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Trina?
Well, with regard to my son, since we're talking about sons, he has no idea, and he's a senior, and I'm panicking right now, but he knows for sure he wants to go to college only because he wants to continue playing sports.
Okay.
So this is where we're at. He doesn't know what he wants to do, doesn't know a major. He doesn't seem pressed about it. And I'm just like, you're a senior. So yeah, I'm supporting him, and we're at this point, we're just looking for colleges that he can play, either football, lacrosse, and I guess we're gonna go in undecided at this point. I mean, what we gonna do? I can't. What I'm gonna do? I'm trying not to stress out.
I say don't stress out about it. He'll figure it out.
He may not. At this point, I thought 2 years ago I said he'll figure it out, and here we are. Yeah. So,
He'll figure it out. I have confidence in him. I really do. He'll figure it out.
Okay, so ladies, for those that have sons, and as well as you, Tangela, so give, if you're a single mom, or if there's moms out there with boys, raising boys in 2021, let's give at least a good two hot ones, 2 hot tips that you could give another mother. Let's start with the son, for the ladies that have sons. 2 hot tips.
I would say first, number 1, teach them how to be a good person. All in all, just teach them how to be a good person. And number 2, this is a big one. Do not walk in if that door is closed, ma'am. Announce yourself.
Nah.
Just go ahead and do it. Just like, don't even think too hard about it. Just go ahead and say something. Start talking in the hallway. Okay.
Okay. All right, Imani.
I mean, just be supportive, definitely try to understand, that if your mom, boys are different, and, don't always force what you think about a man. Just try to be understanding that, men are different, and their experiences are different and their needs are different, and just try to meet them where they are and meet their needs. Also, this is what my sister tells me all the time: radical acceptance. And that is something that I'm working on hard. And it's important because it's like accepting your kids for who they are, and meeting them where they are. So it's a radical concept when it comes to certain things. So it's radical acceptance. Thanks, Ange. I'm working on it.
Okay, that's good. Radical acceptance. Okay. Trina.
I would say, as with a lot of things, you got to choose your battles. Like everything is not, something that we gotta about. Sometimes it's just like, you know what? At least just get the garbage out your room and throw that out. I mean, even if we're not going to fold the clothes, just gather that up and get that out. Let's do that. The other thing I would say is that for me, when it comes to like his emotional health, I have to understand that, especially with my son, he's not real talkative and everything. I have to take, when I get a little chance, when he's talking, I gotta be all in, because if he's talking, woo, this is a big thing, so I gotta accept it and take that. I'm not gonna have the same relationship I have with my daughter, where we sit and chat and kick back and for hours. But when he does talk, it's very important for me to get in there and listen, and and try to understand his emotions. And to that, I gotta kind of dig deeper with his emotions, because a lot of times it only comes out as two things: it's either he's happy or he's mad. So I got to get behind it and kind of just see, and just kind of work with him as a boy, man, in between, that he's working on. I think he's also trying to work on expressing his feelings, and I just gotta kind of wait it out sometimes and see what comes out.
Okay. Wendy said, I tried to keep good male role models around him. As women, we can never think like a man. Right. That is 100% true. And Tangela, all right, give us two good hot tips.
I think the ladies have all shared, wonderful things. And I just echo what was said. I would again encourage, parents to really think not just for the moment. And I think someone said earlier today, you're not just raising your son, you're raising someone's future husband, someone's future father, someone's leader. So, what may be cute and cuddly now could potentially be something serious later. So, think with the end in mind as you are potentially raising my son-in-law, or it could be, taking my daughter. So I want to make sure, that, please raise them right. But that's for, sons and daughters. My little ones, will be wives and mothers one day. So I want to make sure that I'm instilling, those principles. I think honesty, what I've learned is being honest with my kids, not, as age appropriate, but being truthful about, about things, emotions, the realities of life. And I think that will foster an open environment, because they have to see that it's safe to communicate, it's safe to say, I messed up on this, mommy, Or, I know I had one situation, this was a little while ago. Kinsley, she went to bed and she woke up in the middle of the night and she went to her dad. And so she gets cleaned up. And after that, he puts her back, puts her to bed. I think he put her in our bed or something. And she tells him, we don't have to tell mommy about this, because I was asleep. She said, we don't have to tell mommy. Let's keep this between me and you. And at first I was like, what does she mean? But if daddy is your confidant, I'm all for it. So you have to know that, if you went to bed, I can at least talk to daddy and, we'll make it all right. So be that safe place for your children.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So I'm gonna say I definitely took some notes tonight because my kids, I have a boy and I have a girl, and my son is just, he's just going over into those teenage years. And so, it's I think it's been way more challenging for me than it has been for him. And not like he's a bad kid, but I like Wendy was saying, we can never think like a man, because I think like it just seemed like it's so simple. And to him, it's like I'm speaking Russian.
Mm-hmm.
So, we are navigating our communication, but that whole asking him what kind of man you want to be, I think like that's a great question. Because I tried with my son before, like this little boy and his little smart mouth. He's 100% our child. Like, I say stuff to him like, well, one day you're gonna be somebody's husband. Nobody don't want a lying husband. I ain't getting married. Like, I'm like, okay, so what happens if one day you somebody's fault? I don't want no kids. My son, he's very interesting sometimes, because he's definitely my son. So I think that asking him, that's like he don't have nowhere to go. He can't say, you a man, that's it. Like you can't stay, you can't stay a teenager. Like, I can't wait till I ask this question. I'm excited. I'm ready.
Yeah.
You gotta be ready for the answer he's gonna come up with.
Yes, listen, I'm waiting for my moment. But I think that's great. Asking him what kind of man you want to be. Like that. Listen, I got that written down on my paper right here, because I definitely, and that radical acceptance. Like I like that too. That was really good too. That radical acceptance. Yeah, because I know for me, like I love my kids and I accept them, but sometimes when they do stuff, I'm like, okay, maybe that's the Walker side in there. Like
that ain't right.
I was like, you didn't get that from me. Where did you get that? So I think the radical acceptance, like that's great. I think that's a great concept too, that more people need to keep in mind. I know with me, my biggest concern for my kids has always been, I don't want it to take them as long as it took me to get it.
Yeah.
Like that. And sometimes I think, it does cause me to push really hard. Like today at 45, I'm 100% comfortable in my skin. There's nothing nobody can tell me that's going to make me believe Samantha's not great. I don't care what you say. No, I'm serious. Like at 45. And yeah, I've been this way for a minute, but I remember being a teenager and not being comfortable in my skin, or not being confident, or not even believing in myself. So like when I look at them, I want them to get it now. Like, I tell my daughter, girl, you fabulous. And she be like, mommy, no, I need you to say it and roll your neck. I need you to get, no, for real, I need you to get it like you really got it, because I want her to know that as she grows up. You fabulous all by yourself. Like so little things like that I try to make sure like that they get it. Like with my son, I tell him, like he has this thing, like his pants don't sag, but like he has a thing with belts. I don't know, him and belts just accessories. He don't keep up with stuff. So I'm always like, do you see pastor come to church without a belt on? Do you see the ministers at church without like I go down the list of the men and it's like, do you see your dad running around without a belt? Like I have to remind him of those things. Like, look at the people around you. You're the only one looking out of sorts. I need you to at least meet the standard. The standard is to be, have yourself together. So we are definitely navigating these teenage waters because it can be interesting. It can be interesting. So I appreciate everything I heard. That's why I didn't even answer no questions because I needed to listen. I need to listen. I needed some help because some days I'm just not sure which one of us is gonna make it out of here. Like, it be those kinds of moments. So I thank you, ladies, for sharing, for being open and transparent. With me, with the audience. I know it's not always easy to, especially when it comes to your kids, because you're like, on one hand you're like, those are my babies, and then on the other hand you're like, these little jokers here. So it can kind of go back and forth. But I thank you guys for your time. I thank you for sharing. Did anybody have any last comments or words they wanted to share? No? Okay. So I wanted to make sure, leave the door open. So as we're on here every Tuesday at 8:30 with various topics, various guests. Imani, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate it. You made it easy. I asked, you was just like, yeah. Listen, I was sitting watching that text like, oh, I wonder what she's gonna say. And so I thank you.
Thank you
for coming on. It's been great. Having you on here. We appreciate it. And for our audience, we will be back next Tuesday, 8:30 p.m. So until then, be safe.